Peace, peace. This is your host, Selah-Shalom, and this is the Cosmon Teachings in the Words of Jehovah and His Angel Ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible, OAHSPE. And the topic of discussion today is called Charts and Illustrations in High Science. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a breakdown and an explanation of the timetables of prophecy. The timetables of prophecy is basically the travel of the sun and its planets in an orbit. So mainly I'm going to break down the position that the Earth plays in the travel with the sun through these orbits that it goes through, this orbit that it goes through, based off the timetables of prophecy. I spoke about it many times throughout the series, broke it down many times, spoke about it in my book, but here I have a chart I took the time to lay out on the wall just to give an explanation on a large scale, so it'll be no mistakes, no points missing. So with that, I'm going to break down the chart, let you see what it's looking like, and give you a rundown and explain how it works. Now what you see here is the timetables of prophecy laid out. Timetables of prophecy is the orbit of the solar system. And I'm just giving you a view of the whole map, how I got it laid out. See that? What you see right there, I got the 23rd and the 24th arc cycle charted out. I'm not completely done, but this is enough to give you an explanation of what's going on. Now let me give you a breakdown of what's going on here. Now what we have up here, these are the gardens. And there's 8 gardens. And each garden is 576,000 years. That's the length of time of each garden. So you have the first garden, the second garden, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. And in each garden you have 4 ages, as you see these 4 boxes here. So in each garden you have these 4 ages. See that? And the sum total number of these 8 gardens being divided in 576,000 years give you a total of 4,600,000 or 700,000 years within that time period. Just giving you an estimate. Now, according to OAHSPE, we in the 7th garden right here. Like in the last video I did, I said we are in the 7th inhabitable age, and this is it right here laid out. So now, like I said, in each garden you have 4 ages. Now here are the 4 ages on a larger magnitude so you can get a better understanding. The first age is called the time of creation, and that's in comparison to the spring season, and it's 144,000 years for each age. I'll explain these numbers next. The second age is called the time of inhabitation, and that's compared to like the summer season, and it's 144,000 years, and I'll explain this next. The third age is the time of barrenness, and that's in comparison to the fall season, and it's 144,000 years. And the fourth age is the time of rest, and that's in comparison to the winter season. Now these are the 4 ages that the planet goes through in each garden. See that? So for each garden, it goes through these time periods, or these 4 seasons, called the 4 ages. So the most important time is the second age, because that's the time of inhabitation for animal and man. And this is a 144,000 year time period broken down into 2 halves of 72,000 years apiece. And keep in mind, this is the inhabitable age. So the inhabitable age is only 144,000 years. So from our creation to our extinction, all takes place within the second age. The time of inhabitation. Now before I break this down, the rest of it, let me explain these numbers right here. These numbers in OAHSPE are called Gadol degrees, and they're 24,000 year periods. in comparison to precessions. So in the first age, in the time of creation, it's 105 to 100 Gadol degrees. So keep in mind, each box is a 24,000 year time period. So that's 144,000 years. Now when we come to the second age, the inhabitable time for animal and mortals on this planet, we begin from 99 to 94. This is the temperature range for the inhabitable time for mortals on the planet. And keep in mind, these are 24,000 year periods. 24,000 years times 6 is 144,000 years, giving you the length of the inhabitable time of mortals on the planet. And when we go into the third age, the time of barrenness, where nothing can grow on the planet, this is the age when the planet is going to resemble like the Sahara in Africa, or in Arizona, the deserts out there. When the whole planet becomes like this, it'll become the time of barrenness. This is the third age, the fall season. Just like in fall, when nothing can grow and generate, because it just came out of its inhabitable time. Just like you cannot plant an apple tree in the fall season, but that apple tree gives its fruit in spring and summer. But in fall, it's in barrenness. So this is the planet going through these same examples. And from 93 to 88 is the Gadol degrees for the third age, the time of barrenness. And these are 24,000 year periods in each joint, which should give you 144,000 years. And in the winter season, or the time of rest, the fourth age, likewise, from 87 to 82. Now coming back to the most important time of us on this planet being the second age, the inhabitable age, like I said, it's broken down into two halves, because half of 144,000 is 72,000. So from the creation of man to half of the inhabitable time is 72,000 years. And this is where we are right now. We're at the halfway mark of the inhabitable time of mortals on the planet. Now as we go down, because I got the half of the inhabitable age laid out, as you see here. And I'm going to explain what those errors, the degrees, and the numbers. So you have numbers in those boxes. Second. These numbers here are 3,000 year periods. And in the inhabitable time of mortals on the planet, there are 48 arc cycles of 3,000 years, which in return will give you your 144,000 years. I gotta mark this in, I ain't finished with it yet, but just showing you. And above here I got the Gadol degrees, the 24,000 year periods laid out, which is the planetary temperature and decline every 24,000 years of man's inhabitable time on the planet. And the first era, the second era, and the third era are 12,000 year periods in the time period of the inhabitable time of man on the planet. The OAHSPE breaks all this down. So as you can see, eventually you're going to have to get you an OAHSPE, because this is high science and you don't want to be left behind. Now, as stated, the inhabitable age of mortals on the planet is 144,000 years, and we're at the halfway mark here. So from the creation of man to the present time are these three Gadol degree periods, broken down right here. So I'm gonna break it down further. Now, coming back to these arc cycles, the first arc cycle, as you see here, was during the creation of man. And then in the second arc cycle, it'll stay the second arc cycle after the creation of man, the third arc cycle after the creation of mortals, the fourth arc cycle after the creation of mortals, and so on. And this is how it's going. This is the line of history in OAHSPE. It breaks down through these 3,000 year periods. Now when we come to the 17th arc cycle after the creation of mortals, this is during the time of the flood. This is during the time of the flood, or the sinking of Pan, roughly 25,000 years ago. 25,000 years ago. So this is the flood. So this is the flood taking place in the 17th arc. Then you have the 19th. Then you have the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Now when we come to the 23rd arc cycle, this is the time period of the Egyptian dynasties. This is the time period of pre-dynastic Egypt, the Old Kingdom, and the Middle Kingdom. And you have the 24th arc cycle. And then right now we're in the 25th arc cycle, present time, as we speak now. So from the first arc cycle to the 24th arc cycle of 3,000 years is 72,000 years, which is half the inhabitable age. So we're in the 25th arc cycle right now. Now let me break this down even further. Now I'm going to break down the 17th arc cycle to the 24th arc cycle, which is the last 25,000 years of our history. Now when you look now, if you notice from the 17th to the 24th, I got to chart it out. I'm expanding it. So this is the 17th arc cycle coming down to the 24th arc cycle. See that? That's what this is right here. I just made it larger so you can see they expand. Now the 17th arc cycle, it's called the Ark of Noah. Now this is the 17th arc cycle from the creation of man. So from the first arc cycle to the 17th arc cycle is 48,000 years of a 3,000 year period. So from the creation of man to the flood, it's 48,000 years. And the 17th arc cycle was called the Ark of Noah. As I explained numerous times in my video, Noah is the name of the ark cycle, and he was not a person, because there was 12,420 people saved from the flood, and they was commanded to build 138 ships divided into 4 fleets, and the 4 fleets of ships were called Shem, Ham, Japheth, Gautama, and Yesta. But I explained this numerous times. You can see the videos for that. And after the flood, the next 3,000 years is the 18th arc cycle, the Ark of Olo. Then you have the 19th arc cycle, the Ark of Rupta. The 20th arc cycle, the Ark of Mos. Now for each arc cycle, there's a name to it. The OAHSPE renders that up. So you have the 21st arc cycle. So you have the 21st arc cycle, the Ark of Day. The 23rd arc cycle, the Ark of Lu. The 22nd. Then you have the 22nd arc cycle, the Ark of Lu. Then you got the 23rd arc cycle, the Ark of Spita. And the 24th arc cycle, the Ark of Ban. Now, I have charted out the 23rd and the 24th arc cycle below here. Charted out. Now the 23rd arc cycle began 3953 BC to 1553 BC. And then from the 24th arc cycle is 1553 BC to 1848 AD present time. So I got these last 2 arc cycles charted out, and this is only 6,000 year period. The 23rd and the 24th arc cycle are basically a 6,000 year period. Now keep in mind, this is basically roughly 4000 BC. Now, and this is where all the history from the Kemetic to the Sumerian all lies within this time period, from 4000 BC to the 1550 BC, around this time period, as I'm going to explain on the lower chart. This below, right here, is this charted out. It's the arc cycle. Now, I'm not completely done with charting in the words and all that, but I'll just give you a rough draft. So 3953 BC starts here. Got it written so you can see. See, I gotta mark it in. I'm not done with it, but I'm just giving you the insight. So that's where it starts. So during this time period of the 23rd arc cycle, you had Nakada first. That's the time period in ancient Egypt and ancient Kemet, and then you had the Ubaid period simultaneously going on in Sumer. So you had 2 civilizations going on simultaneously in the 4th century, in the 4th millennium BC in Egypt and Sumer. Now when we come to the next phase of the Nakada period, that's 3500 BC. And the 3rd Nakada period in Africa is 3200 BC. Now after the Nakada period, you have pre-dynastic Egypt. See that? You have Narmer. This is 3100 BC. You got Narmer. You have the establishment of Kish in Sumer. You have the Jimdet Nazi period in Sumer, All this is going on 3100 BC. And in Sumer. And in Egypt, you had the pre-dynastic periods beginning. Let me say something else quick, fast. Now, these blocks you see up here, those are called harvest times or subcycles. So every subcycle, a changes take place within the civilization of mortals and angels. So here you have the old kingdom beginning within this block or this time period. And you got Imhotep. And at the same time period, you have Ashur within Sumer being established around 2600 BC. You have Khufu. You got Khufu. And coming down, you have the pyramid text of Teti, Sargon I, Narmer-Sin, and the Akkadian Empire. All taking place within this block up here, these two blocks. Remember, they're all blocks. So you see, this timeline is precise. Ain't nothing missing. Everything is laid out. 2100 BC, you got the Epic of Gilgamesh. And then these dots right here is the first intermediate period. And the last 600 years of the arc cycle, because remember, we're in the 23rd arc cycle from 3953 BC to 1553 BC is where we at. This is the 23rd arc cycle. And this is basically the rise of ancient Egypt and ancient Kemet. Now keep in mind, this is the 23rd, let alone the 22nd, the 21st, the 20th, the 19th, 18th, going back in history. So when we think we know history, we don't know nothing. All we know is 6,000 years as a capstone of high civilization in our mortal history. So coming back now, you have the Epic of Gilgamesh, 2100 BC. And there's other texts I'm going to put in there too. I'm not completely done, but I just wanted to give you a rough draft of what's going on, showing you this high science that OAHSPE is rendering up. And you got to get on it, or you're going to be left behind looking crazy once this information starts to flutter. Now, so you have the Middle Kingdom, still in the 23rd arc cycle. And now as we come to the ending of the 23rd arc cycle, beginning in the 24th arc cycle now, which is from 1553 BC to 1848 AD present time. Now when we start the beginning of the 24th arc cycle, guess what it starts with? The New Kingdom. See that? That's the beginning of the 24th arc cycle during the New Kingdom. And then you have Amos explaining the Hebrews out of Egypt, the expulsions of the Hekekasu, or the Exodus. You got Thutmose IV. This is basically the New Kingdom. The rise of the New Kingdom in the 24th arc cycle. See that? As we come back down, we got Akhenaten. We got Tutankhamun, Ramses II. Certain historical figures that stand out I just marked. But this is the Middle Kingdom. This is the New Kingdom of Egypt. See that right here? Which is the beginning of the 24th arc cycle. Right here. So from this way coming down to the 24th, and from this going this way is the 24th, and the 23rd back going previous that I just explained is the 23rd. So I got charted out the last 6,000 years of history, which is basically the majority of history that, which is the history basically we know. Prior to that, everything is kind of in the dark. And what you see here is the rise of the kings of Israel. And that took place 1050 BC. You have King David, Solomon, and then the rise of Israel is this block right here. That's the reign of Israel. So right after the New Kingdom fell, and the second intermedium took place, this is when the kings of Israel rose up in the land of Canaan, right here. So that's the time of period of Israel. And then here you have is Shalmaneser the fourth, who invaded Israel in 727, 722 BC, the Assyrian invasion. Here it is. And then when we come down, you got Nebuchadnezzar, who invaded Israel, the Babylonian invasion. And that was the ending of the rulership of the Israelite kingdom. And as you see, this is it right here, the whole chart. From the beginning of the reign of Israel to the Assyrian captivity to the Babylonian captivity. And that brought the fall of Israel. And then began the late dynasty of Egypt here. And then in this time period, Gautama Buddha is born, Confucius is born. All this taking place during the time that Israel was in captivity under the Babylonians. And then here you have the Persian rise of Egypt taking place, 525 BC. Confucius, 563 BC. Gautama Buddha, 563 BC. Confucius, 551 BC. The Babylonian invasion, 586 BC. The Assyrian invasion, 522 BC. See, I got all the years laid out, so ain't nothing missing. So I'm not your average Hebrew Israelite. Ain't no Hebrew Israelite got it laid out like this, except me. And then when the Persians rose over Egypt in 525 BC, you have, during this time, Ezra came up to reestablish the Second Temple, and he rewrote the scriptures. He wrote the Tanakh. And this is 4th century, 480 BC is the time of Ezra. 450 BC is the time of the Tanakh. All taking place right here. See that? They go to a Babylonian captivity. Right after the Babylonian captivity, Ezra came on the scene. They came back to Israel, Jerusalem, rebuilt the temple, the Second Temple, and they had the Tanakh. And I went in on scriptures of the origin of this Tanakh, who it was inspired from. I'm gonna explain the upper regions too. This is the lower. This is what's going on earth. Then up here, I'm gonna put what's going on among the heavens to show how it trickled up and down. How the inspiration of heavenly things was inspired on earth. Now as we move on, after the Persians' fall of Egypt, then the Romans took the Ptolemaic dynasty rose, and that's 332 BC. See that? I ain't mark it out yet, so just bear with it. So when the Ptolemy rose, the Ptolemies created their own deity, Serapis, and there you have it, within the Ptolemaic Empire. And you have Ptolemy II, who commanded the Hebrews to translate the Hebrew Bible, the Hebrew Tanakh, into Greek, and that's when the Septuagint Bible came about. And the reign of Ptolemy II was 283 BC to 246 BC. So within that time period is when the Septuagint came about, under the Ptolemaic dynasty. See that? Now when we come down here, as we come down the line of history, you got the Julius calendar come on the scene, 44 BC. That's the calendar that we under now. Then you have the Piso-Roman family, the Piso-Roman Calpurnus. And this is when those who started interfering with the New Testament, that's Piso-Roman family, they behind that. See that? And that's 44 BC. And as you have right here, that's Yahshua, 6 BC to 30 BC. 6 BC to 30 AD, the time of Yahshua. And then you have the change of history from BC to AD, or before Common Era or after Common Era. But this is Yahshua. But look at the history prior to Yahshua on this chart as we come back through history. See that? All the way laid out. As we come back down through history. So what I got laid out here is 6,000 years of history, and that's only the 23rd and the 24th arc cycle. See that? So now you have Gonna get a little dark. So you have Yahshua 36 BC to 30 AD, then 70. So you got Yahshua 6 BC, 30 AD, and 70 AD. You had the invasion of Jerusalem under Titus. In 325 AD coming down the line, you have the Council of Nicaea. The Byzantine Empire begins. The Ptolemaic dynasty ended 30 BC. And then when the Ptolemaic dynasty ended, the Roman Empire of Egypt began. See that? And they ruled to 641 AD. The Byzantine Empire came on the scene 325 AD, or roughly 3rd century AD. As you see the Byzantine Empire up there. 570 AD, Muhammad is born. The gospel of Islam or Mohammedanism starts to spread. And the Byzantine Empire is still in power. The Byzantine Empire comes to an end of power in 1448 AD. Then you have 1550 AD. I ain't finished here. Sir John Hawkins brings the slaves to America. And then 1848 AD is the ending of the arc cycle of the 24th arc cycle. And we're 100 and something plus years within the 25th arc cycle. So right there I just charted out for you with the history and the dates of the history, showing you that this is only the 23rd and the 24th arc cycle. But what about the 22nd, the 21st, 20th, the 19th? And keep in mind these are 3,000 year periods. The 18th, the 17th. So from the flood of Noah, or the flood in the Ark of Noah, because the flood was the sinking of the continent called Pan, located in the Pacific, as I explained numerous times in the videos. So from the 17th arc cycle to the 25th arc cycle, our present time, is roughly 25,000 years. And coming back up here, that's what this is. From the 17th to the 24th arc cycle, the last 24,000 years, which is the 97th Gadol degree period. And this is where we're at right now. The 23rd and the 24th is what I just charted out. From 4th millennium BC to 1550 BC is the 23rd arc cycle. From 1550 BC to 1848 AD is the 24th arc cycle. So that's what I just laid out for you just now, and just showing you that that's the time period in history that everybody's having these debates about. They're arguing about who came first, ancient Kemet, ancient Sumer, the Hebrews, who this, who that. But that's only the 23rd and the 24th arc cycle, and let alone the rest of the arc cycles through history that is unmatched, undiscovered yet. While we thinking we know something about history, and we don't even know nothing. We barely could recap 6,000 years of history right here. All right. So that's from the 17th to the 24th arc cycle that this is laid out. 24,000 years. And then the 23rd and 24th arc cycle is what I got laid out here. The last 6,000 years. That's the ending. This is the beginning of the 24th arc cycle going around. See that? This is what OAHSPE is running around. This is the information that my camp is dealing with right here. High science. We ain't got time for the foolishness. See that? That's what we're dealing with here. High science. And this is the timetables of prophecy. I'd like to say peace and blessings. Shalom.